The stars of the Moto2 future come to pass in race number 2 on the biggest roller coaster on 2 wheels. 9th right and 6th left make up this thrilling Algarve circuit, situated just 30 minutes outside the seaside town of Portimão. Built back in 2008, it has been hosting 2-wheeled motorsport ever since and has seen many stars of the past, present and of course the future grace the rolling tarmac on the Algarve hills. With championship battle reaching fever point and Roberto Garcia taking race 1 honours, who can stop the young Spaniard in race number 2? So 4 races down today, 2 to go, and we kick it off with Moto2 European Championship race number 2 here in the Algarve, the Autódromo Internacional do Algarve here in Portimão. And we've had some 4 fantastic racing action. If you have just joined us, make sure you watch the next 2 races and then go back and watch the previous 4 because you're missing out on some scintillating track action in the Algarve. I'm Liam Hodgins bringing you the broadcast for this one. Alongside me is my towering champion of delight. It's Chris Jordan, the ever-present Irish voice that's been gracing your ears throughout the day. However, gracing the top step of the podium was Roberto Garcia in race number 1 with Fillon, unfortunately missing the start due to a problem before the sighting lap. As lights went out, it was Alberto Sura on the Bosco Scuro that challenged Garcia for the hole shot into turn 1. However, he ran a little bit deep and it was Garcia that took the hole shot. But that wasn't all of it done and dusted yet, as into turn 5, Sura retaliated once more. These two are starting to make a bit of a break already in the opening lap ahead of Oradri and Danny Munoz. For the back it was your double race winner from Catalonia that was in 3rd, holding the podium ahead of Unai Oradri. But the top 2 cleared off into the distance, with Sura coming to the fore as they enter turn 1 on lap 4. Further back we see Kaito Toba just ahead of your former championship leader Matteo Cassidy. He was struggling on the lower reaches of the top 10, but it would be Roberto Garcia that would launch an assault once more on Alberto Sura. But Sura on the Bosco Scuro was not done and dusted just yet as he fought back into turn 1. These two were really lighting up the TV screens with another back and forth as Garcia attacked into turn 11, but Sura was not having any of it. It was not going down without a fight. However, this race-winning overtake from Roberto Garcia sealed the victory for the Spanish rider, his 2nd victory of the season, as the battle for the podium heated up on the final lap with Munoz and Ferrandez battling it out, with Ferrandez coming out on top of that. But nobody could stop Garcia and Portimão. Race 1 belonged to the Spanish rider, his 2nd victory of the season, and the Fluid Cardoso looking on, and the Fante Cardoso racing team with a stoppage to celebrate. He came into Parc Ferme to celebrate his 1st victory of the day. Can he make it double delight in Portimão? Perfect conditions grace us here in the Algarve. 41-degree track temperature, 32-degree air temperature. It's scorching hot out there in the Algarve sun for this one. It is a bit of a breeze, but with how hot it is here, we cannot really feel it whatsoever. And see, everyone is taking shade in the grandstand across from our commentary box window. Nobody is in the lower part of the grandstand because that's where the sun is hitting their faces. The Moto2 riders, you can see Roberto Garcia getting ready with a cool towel on the back of his neck. All the riders struggling to keep cool in these conditions. Roberto Garcia did take over the summit of the championship in race 1 earlier on today, taking that honour from Matteo Cassidy, who sits 4 points back in the championship standings. 2 race wins, 4 podiums from the opening 6 races of the season. His worst result was in Catalonia, where he did have a technical problem in the closing stages of the race. Without that, he would have been inside the top 6 in every single race so far this season. And Chris, you have to admit, Roberto Garcia, we were talking earlier on in the broadcast that the last 5 visits we've had here, there's been a double. The president's won the race. The race 1 has gone on to win race number 2, apart from 2022. It's going to be tough to stop Garcia in this one.
Yeah, he was full value for the win earlier. Brilliant start. Started on pole, Sura got a better launch of the line, took off, took the whole shot, but only momentarily, because it was a really electric battle across the opening laps between Sura and Garcia, and that continued then over the next 14 laps before Garcia finally stuck the winning move and then opened up about a 2-second advantage as he crossed the line. But really mature ride from Roberto Garcia. He's starting to come into his own in this class and will be hard to stop in the championship race.
Yeah, it really will be indeed. Alberto Sura, we just saw on screen there, he's launched himself back into championship contention with that second place earlier on today. His second podium of the season, and another rider that, I must admit, it looked good in the championship, but he has dropped 1 point off the championship lead, but that's because he's been taken over by Roberto Garcia. Danny Munoz just missed out on a podium in race number 1, finished in 4th, and was very lucky in some stages, Chris, to stay on board the machine because he was having some leery rear end moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a bit of a masterclass from Munoz in how to save us. But we said it during the race. He had the pace to actually go with Sura and Garcia early on, but that moment proved a bit costly. He dropped him back into 5th or 6th position, and then he just had to work his way through the pack again. He held on to P3, looked in complete control of the position, and was bang on for another podium until some late heroics from Alberto Ferrandis.
Yeah, he'll be looking for a podium in this race. Francesco Mongiardo, we just saw on screen there, going from 4th position on the grid, had a tough start to race number 1, and then eventually pulled into the pit, and he'll be hoping to go a lot better in race 2 today. Hopefully the bike will stay underneath him. A rider that had a lot of problems, expecting big things from him. A former podium finisher here in the Moto2 World Championship, Jorge Navarro, looked strong in the early stages, Chris, but just plummeted down the field late in the race.
Yeah. You would think maybe he had a problem or the tyres just weren't functioning as he wanted it. But yeah, we would expect more from Navarro, a rider of such vast experience, and was very much in that podium battle across the opening laps, and then just seemed to drop back. And even Mattia Casadei, who struggled quite a bit, managed to get by him on the later laps. Here is Casadei, the former championship leader. Second now on 92 points, managed a bit of a Sunday salvage job for the Italian. But yeah, as we were saying, Navarro, he'll be hoping for better. Casadei dropped back at the start pretty quickly, you know, starting second row. He was back in P10 after the opening laps. So both riders of considerable experience. They'll need to use that experience for a better start this time around. We
have seen this on a number of occasions so far this year, with Casadei dropping back in the early stages and has to have a fight back job to at least salvage something. So we, as you said, Chris, hoping for a better result here today. Here is Unai Oradri. So going back to a joke we had earlier on this morning, Unai Oradri showed very well in the opening laps. Eventually did come across the line of 5th. His second top 5 of the season. He's really come into a rich vein of form as the young Spaniard in the last couple of races. Started with that podium back in Catalunya. Now finished it up with 5th in race number 1. He'll be looking to go a couple of positions better and take another podium in Portimão.
Yeah, had a strong race. He was running in those podium positions for a while earlier, but just tailed off a little bit. So he'll be just looking to build on his development this year. He's of course a race winner in this class last season, but Oradre, for now, I think he's just chasing down another podium and looking for development. Now, a rider who's very hit or miss. He seems to just bag a podium every couple of races and then disappear. It's Alberto Ferrandis, still very young, just 16 years old, I believe.
Yeah, half the age of us two. It's just
cheers for that, Liam.
I mean, we're both the same age. You're a month older though, so I'm
cheers for that one, mate. But yeah, Ferrandis seems to be a hit or miss rider, but back on the podium, once he is going, he seems to charge hard. Always has good late race pace, which has helped him bag 3 podiums so far this season. So it'll be interesting to see if he can find that consistency, finally find it, to back up his podium performance earlier today with another strong running this afternoon.
Yeah, maybe he'll be challenging for the win here today. We are kind of expecting it from Ferrandis, that the victory could not be too far away. A rider we just saw on screen there that really has come into form so far this weekend is Kaito Toba. Started off slowly, had to come through Q1, gone to Q2, qualified 9th, but picked up an 8th position. It looks like the Japanese rider is now starting to gel with this Moto2 machine. He was in World Supersport last year, a former Moto3 race winner, and It's just taken him a bit of time, but he's now getting there, and we could be expecting another strong performance from Kaito Toba.
Yeah, Eric Fernandez then just on our screens. Stock 2023 European Championship runner-up. He's had a decent rookie season in the Moto2 class. A little bit of luck has deserted him from time to time. Hasn't quite made the breakthrough into the top 3, but a quality rider, and we would expect him, particularly in the latter half of the season, to really push the top guys in this class.
Exactly. Another rider that'll be looking for a strong performance here today is Matteo Volpe. Crashed out of race number 1 at turn 13, chasing his first top 10 of the season, which has been eluding him so far. Has been a consistent point scorer when he's been finishing inside the points. Best results of 12th position. That twice he's had that so far. But his best result in Moto2 is a P9, so he'll be hoping to try and go better than that. Marco Tapia, another rider that missed out on some points in the early race, and he's only been able to score points on 2 occasions, and that came at Catalunya. A rider that we've seen good form from in the previous seasons, but Marco Tapia on the number 8 machine just struggling a little bit so far this season.
Yeah, we've seen better days in the past for Tapia. Just hasn't managed to find that form. Stuff we've seen from him. I think his best results in the past actually came in the Algarve last season. I have to fact check that one, but I'm sure somebody can write in.
I think you could be right. I've also got down here, he was also one best result, maybe his equal best result was at Valencia last year as well. So he has had a podium in the JuniorGP series coming in 2020 and the European Talent Cup, and a fist pump in the air for Chris Jordan next to me, so I think he's confirmed
a double P4 in the Algarve last season.
Oh, double P4, well,
firing away his
better
best.
than mine.
I knew my memory didn't serve me too poorly. So, this is our grid for the second race of the day in the Moto2 Championship. European Championship, it's Roberto Garcia, Alberto Sura and Danny Munoz forming a considerable threat on the front row. Then Monjaro, Navarro and Casadei will be hoping for better starts than they had earlier today. Row 3 sees Unai Oradre joined by Alberto Fernandez and Kaito Toba. Eric Fernandez is at the head of the 4th row with Mattia Volpi and Marco Tapia. Harrison Voice, Brett Roberts, Joan Gimbert are on row 5. Ahead of Lorenzo Felon, who had some issues early on in race 1. Taiga Hada and Matteo Ratto also on that row. And then propping up the grid is Di Vittori and Charles Aubry.
As the riders get ready to start their warm-up lap, it's Roberto Garcia that goes away from pole position. Can he make it a double here in Portimão? He'll be the second rider in Moto2 this season to do the double. The first rider to do that was last time out, Danny Munoz, who took his first 2 victories of the season and, of course, in the class last time out in Catalunya. On the last 5 occasions here in Portimão, there's only been 1 occasion where the rider that won race number 1 didn't go on to win race 2. That was in 2022 with Alex Escrage taking the honours in race 1 and Lucas Tulovic in race number 2 that season. Tulovic eventually would go on to be champion later on that season. As we're taking a close look at Alberto Sura, has just dropped to the back of the field. I'm not sure what tactics he is up to, but
just looking to get a look at everybody else.
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah, maybe. But as we see the riders come through turn number 5, track temperature 40 degrees Celsius. I can't imagine what that feels like to be on the track at the moment. Air temperature 32 degrees Celsius. I'm glad we've managed to get some aircon in this commentary box, Chris, because it's absolutely sweltering out there on circuit.
Yeah, it is a scorcher under the Portuguese sun. Thankfully, we've had some scorching action on track to go with the heat, but the riders most certainly have my sympathies. Going around on board Moto2 machines, those leathers is no easy task, and we've seen it plenty of times on the rostrum, or the second they get into pit lane, back to their garage, they're looking for water and they're being poured straight down the leathers and into the back to cool them down. So hopefully they keep their cool on circuit and get their well-deserved rest afterwards.
I'm sure they will be. Maybe a cold ice bath afterwards. I think we're going to be needing that as well, because every time I go down to Park Fermi to do the interviews, I've been cooking like a lobster down there. So turning into something that resembles red traffic lights, so yeah, not looking too good on my skin as the sun in the Algarve, but
enough about your skin now, Liam. Let's talk about the racing.
I was about to get onto that one, Chris. You just wait once again. Roberto Garcia is not very good at this, is he? It looks like he's been
if you like omens, perhaps that's a good sign for Roberto Garcia on the double. Just in case you're joining us, he also had that wobble rolling up to the grid in race 1. Turned out pretty well for him.
It did indeed. We know how superstitious riders can be. Many of them have many rituals. Maybe that's Roberto Garcia's as he rolls up to pole position for race number 2 here in the Algarve. The green flag waves in the background, the red flag comes off the grid. The revs will be rising any moment now when the red lights come on, and it will be Roberto Garcia that goes from pole position as the lights go out now, and it's a cracking start for your championship leader on the right hand side of the screen on the 31, but also Alberto Sura gets an even better start as they tuck into turn number 1. Danny Munoz looks up the inside of Navarro for 3rd and 4th position, but it's the line of storm with Garcia late on the brakes. We've seen a good Suarez in the past, almost tagging the back of the Bosco Scuro rider, but for now it's Sura and Garcia once again with a couple of bike lengths advantage over Danny Munoz and Jorge Navarro, and that looks like Mattia Casadei has had another shocker of a start. He's all the way back outside of the top 10, and as Fernandez once more has had another cracking start from row number 3. He's into 6th on the number 4 machine for now. As we head out of sector number 2, it's Garcia is now taking the lead from Sura and Danny Munoz rounding out your top 3.
Yeah, again, another stunker of a start from Mattia Casadei, going the wrong way at lights out. No such problems this time around though for Jorge Navarro. He's running in 4th position, just behind Munoz, who's becoming pretty accustomed to riding inside the top 3. Alberto Sura and Roberto Garcia. The first night out of today, we saw fireworks fly between these two riders. It's a much more settled opening lap from these two, perhaps learning a couple lessons, but they were by far and away the fastest riders last time out, and Danny Munoz has avoided any early frights and looks set to go with the top 3. So it's interesting. Garcia is very settled. Garcia has opened up a gap already as we come around turn 14 and into 15 for the first time in race 2. He has opened up a gap. It's Sura and Munoz as it pretty much was in race 1, but this time Jorge Navarro will be hoping he can remain with these top guys, and indeed, just as I say that, he's got Unai Oradre for company coming into turn 1. However, the Clint Ford racing rider holds on to 4th position.
Yeah, we saw this earlier on from Unai Oradre, very rapid in the early laps of the race, but Jorge Navarro for now holds on to P4 with Alredo going wide in the background, but this is not what any of these riders wanted to see. Roberto Garcia at the front, he opened up a gap, a very clever gap in front of Alberto Sura before they came onto the front straight. He knows how quick that Bosco Scuro is in a straight line. They blasted past him on a number of occasions in race number 1 earlier on today, but for now, Roberto Garcia leads it brilliantly, chasing his 2nd victory of the day. As we've got a long lap penalty flash up on screen for the number 8 of Marco Tapia, penalty for unsafe entry into the pit. So Marco Tapia will be having to serve that long lap penalty on this lap or in the next couple of laps as we continue to watch this battle for 4th. Jorge Navarro just runs a little bit deep, really struggling to get that forward machine stopped compared to the Calyx of Oradre just behind, but back at the front, it seems like the gap is stabilized between Sura and Garcia at 0.3 of a second, so maybe after Garcia went off like a scalded cat on lap 1, Sura's now just been able to keep that advantage, reeling back in ever so slightly as Munoz is just a couple of tenths further back from Sura.
Oh, we have someone down in the background there. I'm not sure who it was. It could have been Monjardo, but it looks like they may have blocked a couple of riders. Now, unless my eyes have deceived me, we haven't seen anything of it yet, but it looks like one of the machines went down in the background.
We do have a yellow flag at turn 14, so I think your eyes didn't deceive you there, Chris. We'll have to wait and see who it
Here
is.
comes Unai Oradre up the inside of Navarro. This is not what Navarro wanted to see, but he does fight back. Oradre sees these riders getting away from Navarro and looks to get on with it, and it is indeed Monjardo who went down. But battle for 4th position is unfolding here. Navarro had big problems in race 1, Liam, didn't he? Now he will look to rectify that here in this afternoon, and that starts by holding off Unai Oradre.
Yeah, big disaster in race number 1 for Jorge Navarro. We're not quite sure if it was a bike problem, or maybe the tyres went off, which spells bad luck if you are having tyre troubles in race number 1, because already in race 2, as we've seen from JuniorGP earlier on, and also Sura's lost a lot of time there to Garcia, and Munoz is all over the back of him, and Munoz going for the move, not quite doing it just yet, but on that previous lap there, Sura has dropped a big gap to Roberto Garcia. Really well pointed out there by Chris. There as Munoz goes for the Munoz move into turn 13, brilliantly done from Danny Munoz. He has a moment there.
Fucking Bronco on the roller coaster from Danny Munoz.
If you want a wild ride, Danny Munoz provides it here at Portimão. We've still got Mongiardo on the outside of the circuit there, so that's a great shame for Mongiardo. So fingers crossed he can get quickly taken off to the side of the track. He's got a yellow flag at turn 15 as well. Hopefully it wasn't another rider that's gone down, and maybe just a yellow flag still waving from Mongiardo on the previous lap.
So this is the battle for 4th position. The yellow flags were at turn 15. That could have been one of the lead group, but we'll wait and see once now. Sura, Munoz and Garcia are all there. Well, let's hope this is precautionary for Mongiardo. It looks like he's given the thumbs up. He does look in a little bit of pain, but hopefully this is more precautionary than anything else for Francesco Mongiardo. We wish him a speedy recovery. It's not been the best day of racing for him, and now he's being whipped away in the ambulance. So our thoughts are with him and hope for a speedy recovery. But back out on track, Roberto Garcia has opened up a considerable gap already, and Danny Munoz has put a few bike lengths between himself and Sura already. And in the battle for 4th, Unai Rodre has gotten the better of Jorge Navarro.
Yeah, it's all settled down for the moment in this Moto2 race, but we've seen so many times this season that, especially in race number 2, when the track temperature comes up, the air temperature comes up, that's when the tyre, my goodness, Danny Munoz is just throwing that Calyx from one side to the other, really making it squirm underneath him. The rear wheel comes round, the front wheel comes up in the air, is pushing on as Danny Munoz, as we get the confirmation now on the bottom of our screen that Marco Tapia has got a long lap penalty for an unsafe entry into the pit lane. And Chris, I don't know if my eyes are deceiving me, but we have to keep an eye on the gap between Garcia and Munoz. And Munoz is really pushing on, because we did see how out of shape that Gas Up Racing Team number 17 was. So across the line they come now. What is the gap between the top two? 0.2 of a second has come down by. It was 1.3, it's now 1.1. And Danny Munoz sets a 1:43.235. The Barcelona two-time winner is really motoring on now, and Garcia, he now has questions asked of him. It says Garcia will set the fastest lap. That was from 2 laps ago, I believe. On the previous lap, he set 1:43.4. So, yeah, Garcia set the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap. On the last lap there, Danny Munoz did reel him in by 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, you can see it on the screen ourselves that that gap is coming down just ever so slightly. Garcia still holds a commanding advantage, but Munoz is making inroads into it. He is chiseling away at the lead. The number 31 and race 1 winner holds Roberto Garcia. So is he set to go back to back? He seized control of the championship with victory earlier today. He is now looking to hammer home that advantage, particularly with Mattia Cassidy dropping, where is he? P8 on our timing screens, number 40. So it's been a nightmare outing realistically for the previous championship leader, and Alberto Sura has been a shining light today for the Cincinnati Bosco-Scuro side, but even he is struggling to contend with the speed of the front two now.
That gap looks a little bit closer from Munoz to Garcia. Coming through turn 9, Garcia was really spinning up the rear already, leaving a dark line on the tarmac. We've seen a couple of times Munoz getting out of the seat, but it looks like his bike is just gripping up a little bit more in comparison to Garcia on the Fantic Cardoso racing machine. Across the line once again, they come in once more. It's now down to under 1 second. Munoz takes another 0.2 of a second out of Garcia's advantage. The race winner here in the European Stock Championship 1 year ago in dominant fashion, Danny Munoz. He's now got his hooks into the back of Garcia. And on that previous lap, even Alberto Sura was quicker than your race leader, only by 0.03 of a second. But the Bosco Scuro is now coming into his own and starting to reel in your race leader as well. The top three all in one shot, with Unai Oradri flashing into the background on the number 10, with Jorge Navarro just behind him on the 11 Clint Forward Junior Team Forward machine. So it's now starting to heat up. 5 laps gone, 11 to go, and Danny Munoz is just hustling that Calax Gas Up Racing Team machine around this Portimão circuit. He's on a roller coaster of a ride, and every time we see Roberto Garcia on screen, we just see that number 17 coming into shot a little bit bigger every single time. Chris, this looks like it could be shaking up to be an absolute barnstormer.
Yeah, he is just chipping away at that lead ever so slightly, but these two sectors, the first 2 sectors on our timing screens, Munoz is a quicker rider ever so slightly. He was a quicker rider on the last lap by about 0.2, so he is making big inroads, well, narrow inroads, bit by bit, step by step. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. But he is making inroads into Garcia out front. It'll be interesting to see now, does Garcia have anything up his sleeve in response to the Gas Up Racing Team rider? At the moment, there's nothing. Now, Navarro, we mentioned earlier, he's been shaken off already by Unai Oradre. Oradre running in a lonely 4th as things stand. Both Eric Fernandez and Alberto Fernandez will be looking at Jorge Navarro with pursed lips as they see another position up for grabs. They still have a few bike lengths as the two of them battle for 6th position here, but they'll be looking at a top 5 finish because Navarro once again is sinking like a stone. His gap has come down considerably over the last few corners even. Navarro had much more of an advantage than that, and it is a matter of when, not if, because the number 11 is going backwards.
We may have a rider down from the top.
Fernandez is,
oh no!
It's Danny Munoz is gone.
Oh my goodness, he was pushing on. He had the gap down to 0.7 of a second to Roberto Garcia, and Danny Munoz is down and out of this race. Disaster has struck for your Barcelona double victor, and here we go again, the replay. It looked like it may have gone quite early into turn number 5, slides right out, and that has let Roberto Garcia off the hook at the front of this field. I can't believe it, Chris. It's such a shame. He's absolutely distraught with himself. Just saw it flash up on a timing monitor. Turn 4, 5, and 6, yellow flags out, and we saw Jorge Navarro just set up, and that'll be for the reason. Danny Munoz has gifted this victory on a plate to Roberto Garcia, who now holds over a 2-second advantage over Alberto Sura in this race. He'll know about it now as he comes across the line. His pit board will say Munoz out, and that will let him breathe a sigh of relief. You can see him come across the line now. Roberto Garcia leads away over Alberto Sura by 1.9, so Alberto Sura brought the advantage back down again in that final sector. So maybe Alberto Sura can get his claws into Garcia and challenge for victory, as we see Fernandez taking advantage of Jorge Navarro.
Yeah, Navarro is sinking like a stone. They've already built up a considerable gap as Eric Fernandez dives up the inside of Alberto Fernandez, and the number 4 takes P4 off the hands of the number 54. So, will these riders, Fernandez looks to be getting on with it. They see Unai Oradre just, 3 seconds ahead of them, but still quite a ways to go. Navarro has actually closed the gap now as these two have exchanged positions. So there's plenty of life left yet in the battle for P4. In terms of the podium, it looks like Roberto Garcia is already home and host, unless Alberto Sura, who hasn't displayed amazing pace, just enough to get himself into P3 before Danny Munoz crashed out. And so Sura, you would imagine, will be pretty satisfied. Well, there is Munoz. Sura, however, will be pretty satisfied with a double podium, with Unai Oradre sitting in P3. We'll keep an eye on the lap times. Unai Oradre was a 1:43.6 last time around. He was the quickest rider on track, and by a distance too. Yeah. He's got a 1:43.6. The riders ahead of him were in the 1:44 flats, while the riders behind were mid 1:44s. So Oradre is showing some good pace at the moment. But all eyes on the battle for 4th.
Yeah, great battle for 4th going on between Fernandez and Fernandez. That's a bit of a tongue twister there if you're trying to...
And here comes
scoop in.
Fernandez.
Fernandez, not Fernandez, but Fernandez on Fernandez as they come across the line. Got the drive out of the final corner. And across the line, he retakes 4th position as we look at the gap at the front. And once more, Garcia has opened up by 2/10 of an advantage over Alberto Sura. In sector 1, Sura's got the advantage by 2/10. Garcia matches it in the second sector and then extends the lead in the final sector. And Unai Oradre, he is slowly closing on Alberto Sura for second spot. He was 1/10 of a second faster on the previous lap. So Oradre, who picked up his first podium of the season last time out in Catalonia, backed it up with a P5 earlier on today, and he's now looking for another podium in Moto2 European Championship here in Portimão. But it's out for a Sunday stroll as Roberto Garcia powering through Craig Jones' corner, lighting up the rear as he does it, looking absolutely magnificent on the Fantic Cardoso racing machine, the Calyx chassis bike. And he's just extending that gap over Sura once more by 4/10 on this lap so far. But it's the battle for second we really have to watch out for, because in this lap so far, is homing into screen, Oradre is 4/10 of a second faster than Alberto Sura, Chris.
Yeah, he's on the march. We pointed out his rapid time last time out at 1:44 flat was the quickest rider on track after your race leader, who's in the high 1:43. So 1:44 flat last time out. And his best race lap, okay, hasn't quite matched the pace of the front two, but he's showing some good pace here, Oradre, as they come into view. Quite a distance between them as of yet, but with what, 7 laps to go, it feels like that podium battle isn't over quite yet. And should Oradre catch Sura, it might just bring Fernandez and Navarro back into play if the two of them end up going wheel to wheel.
Yeah, they're going to have to go a bit to catch the top 3, well, this group here, but there's a couple of riders homing into background there. Mattia Casadei, your former championship leader, 4 points off Roberto Garcia, needs as many points as he possibly can get on the Bosco Skewer machine. And number 40 homing into shot behind Jorge Navarro. He's dragging along with him Kaito Toba on that previous lap. Kaito Toba was the second fastest rider on track, just a couple of tenths slower than your race leader Roberto Garcia. He was the only other rider in the 1:43s. He was 4/10 of a second faster than Casadei, and Casadei was 4/10 of a second faster than Eric Fernandez. So it looks like Fernandez on the number 4 is coming back under pressure from Jorge Navarro. He's now starting to struggle with his tyres as Casadei on the 40 and Kaito Toba as well are now honing into shot. Fernandez, he hasn't got this 4th place sewn up just yet either, because the 3 behind Fernandez were all faster on that lap than Fernandez in 4th and 5th position. But nobody can hold a candle to your championship leader Roberto Garcia on the number 31. Fantic Cardoso racing machine comes out of the final corner to take off another lap. 6 to go for the 31. The young Spanish rider, he opens up the advantage to 3 seconds, but now the gap between Oradre and Sura is now down to 1.4.
Yeah, long way to go, yes, in this race. It looks like Oradre and Sura have pretty much put plenty of daylight between Fernandez and Navarro, the chasing pack, who are battling for 4th position. They're too far back. They won't be contending for honours. But here comes Mattia Casadei. He sees more points on offer. Struggling Jorge Navarro struggles to keep pace with the riders ahead. Mattia Casadei is charging hard, and once again, having botched the start, Casadei on the number 40 Team Chiatti Bosco Scuro machine is charging hard late on as he looks to salvage some more points and keep his championship bid alive.
Yeah, further back, some riders that are shown quite well. Harrison Voigt on the Yamaha Stylobikes Philippine machine. He's having his best result of the season so far, ahead of Marco Tapia. Lorenzo Felon, who didn't score any points after starting from pit lane. Matteo Rato and Tagahara riding out the podium positions. As we can see the championship on screen, Garcia, this is like Christmas Day to him. He'll be 19 points ahead of Alberto Sura if it remains as is. However, the podium, or the second place, is not set in stone just yet for Sura, as Oradre is continuing to catch the Bosco Scuro Italian rider as they tick off the laps. We saw a moment there just for Jorge Navarro. That has put Cassidy all over the rear wheel of the Spanish rider on the forward machine. It feels like a matter of time now before Cassidy does get past Jorge Navarro, but they both have to watch out they don't lose too much in, because Kaito Toba, once again on the previous lap, was the only other rider apart from Garcia in the 1 minute 43s. And as a tick across the line now into second gear they go. Cassidy pulls out of the slipstream late on the brakes to come. Kaito Toba pops out as well, but even later on the brakes is Jorge Navarro, who continues to hold sixth spot for now. But as we saw in race number 1, Navarro's really starting to struggle with his tyres in these closing laps. Well, Cassidy and Toba just get even faster.
Well, moment for Cassidy.
Wow, that was very close.
I was just about to say some crucial championship points on offer for Mattia Cassidy. It seemed a matter of when, not if, when he'd get past Jorge Navarro. However, just a moment there has put paid to those plans for the time being, but it still seems he has better pace than Navarro. Navarro just using all of his experience really to defend the position. He's riding in P6, so big points on offer could mean that Cassidy remains at least in second position in the championship ahead of Alberto Sura. Here we will see what happened. He's just nearly got run into the back of by Kaito Toba as well, as he just kind of stood up very suddenly there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he lost the front. It doesn't look like it. Oh, did he maybe just miss a gear? Looked like maybe just missed a gear coming out of turn number 3. That checked him up, and also Kaito Toba, who did a really good job of missing the back of Cassidy. I thought from the other angle, maybe just thought Jorge Navarro was coming onto line, but from that it looked like he was stomping on the gear lever to try and get it into gear. So we'll keep a close eye on that one. Maybe it's a technical gremlin that's now starting to play its head in on Cassidy's Bosco Scuro machine. On that previous lap, it looks like Sura has now just kept at bay Unai Oradri. On that previous lap, for the first time in about 4 or 5 laps, Oradri was slower than Alberto Sura, only by a couple of hundredths of a second, but with 4 laps to go, that can mean the difference between second and third, as we see Kaito Toba make a move on Jorge Navarro. Once again, Navarro has lost 2 places on this lap. Cassidy and Toba are coming through the field like a steamroller, and they've now got Eric Fernandez and Alberto Fernandez just in front of them, and on the previous lap they were lapping slightly faster than the 2 riders in front.
Yeah, horrible couple of corners then for Jorge Navarro. He did his best to defend the position, but very quickly he's gone from P6 to P8 at the expense of some fellow experienced riders. Mattia Cassidy, of course, the Moto2 world champion, and Kaito Toba with, I think, 7 years experience on the Moto3 world championship stage before beginning his new adventure here in the Moto2 European Championship. Now, Cassidy, he's got Eric Fernandez just ahead of him in his sights with, what, 3.5 laps to go, just under. Is there going to be enough time for Cassidy to bag himself a top 5? Back at the front, we're looking at Roberto Garcia, the number 31. He is now just a matter of minutes away from completing the double here in the Algarve and extending his championship lead. He became the championship lead with victory this morning, and now he's about to put a bit more daylight between him and the likes of Alberto Sura, Mattia Cassidy, Jorge Navarro.
It's been perfection in Portimão for Roberto Garcia. I hope you haven't put the commentator's curse on him there, Chris, because anything can happen in the last few laps of Moto2. We've seen that with also Danny Munoz going down a few laps ago. Now, something that can happen in this race is who is going to finish second and third on the podium, because Unai Oradri on the previous lap was 0.3 of a second faster again than Alberto Sura. That gap is now down to under 1 second. Oradri has his hooks into the back of the Bosco Scuro of Alberto Sura. Is on for his second podium of the day and his third of the season. Unai Oradri is aiming for his best result of the season. He picked up 3rd place in Catalonia a couple of weeks ago. He now wants second with Roberto Garcia high and dry at the moment as it goes over the crest of the hill, down the hill, in towards Craig Jones Corner, spinning up the rear. A bit of a moment there on the rear, leaving another dark lane on the tarmac, but he seems undeterred, does it, the championship leader, who's going to extend his points over Alberto Sura to 19, or will it be 23 if Unai Oradri can get the better of Alberto Sura. Further back, we've still got the battle going on between Cassidy and Fernandez. Casadei's got the advantage to Fernandez, down to half a second, with Kaito Toba on for his best result of the season in 7th, just another half a second further back as we continue to watch Roberto Garcia come through the final corner, and the battle for second looks like it could be over and done with for now, with 2 laps to go. That gap looks like it's remained around about 1.1, 1.2 seconds. We'll check as they come across the line. Roberto Garcia, another lap, he's ticked off. 2 to go for your championship leader, and the gap between Sura and O'Radre is back up to 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, too little too late from O'Radre, really, and Alberto Sura has responded in kind. So with just over under 2 laps and just over a lap and a half remaining, the number 31, Roberto Garcia, just needs to keep it clean and tidy over the next 6 kilometers or so, 6 or 7 kilometers remaining, and he's going to do a back-to-back win. It'll be back-to-back podiums then for Alberto Sura, with Unai O'Radre comfortably riding home to his 2nd podium of the campaign in P3.
Wasn't sure what quite happened there, but everything's all okay for Roberto Garcia as we continue to watch a masterclass from him. Just a Sunday ride for your championship leader, and got a fantastic style. The bike goes one way, his body weight goes the other way, just to counter the weight of the machine over the crest of the hill into Craig Jones' corner. And as we continue to watch him rack up a 2nd victory here today in Portimão, his 3rd of the season, adding to that stat of the riders that over the last 5 seasons who've won race number 1, won race number 2. The only time that didn't happen in the last 5 years was 2022 with Alistair Squeech and Lucas Tulovic. Unai O'Radre getting a little bit out of shape coming out of turn 13 as he's trying to push on to catch Alberto Sura in 2nd place, but it looks like the podium battle is done and dusted for now as Roberto Garcia comes across the line over the crest of the hill, starts his final lap of the race for Moto2 European Championship race number 2, late on the brakes, down the hill into turn number 1, down the gears and trips into the right-hander, nice and clean as you like, into number 2, late on the brakes into the bottom gear, right-hander, turn at number 3 before sweeping across the track once again. Oh, a moment there, I almost tucked the front. We're bigging him up for his 2nd race win of the day and extending his championship lead. Almost tucked the front, almost lost it, and Roberto Garcia, just take it nice and easy, Roberto. You're about to win.
Yeah, just about to say it was a flawless performance, but near flawless is going to be good enough for the Spaniard as he extends his championship advantage. A little further back we see some changes. It seems that Kaito Toba and Mattia Casadei have caught Eric Fernandez. We'll catch a highlight of that, but it's all about this rider now as he comes across the crest at turn 8. Yellow flags out as well, a little further back, not affecting the front riders. So Roberto Garcia, less than half a lap away into the final sector from becoming a 2-time race winner here at the Algarve. Pole, race win, race win. It has been the perfect weekend for the Spaniard.
He's really asserting his authority on this championship now. He came into the weekend just 7 points behind Mattia Casadei, took over the championship lead in race number 1. He's about to extend that to 19 points over Alberto Sura. Just one more corner to go for Roberto Garcia. He's about to wind the wick up through the final turn over the crest of the hill. He looks to his right. He sees the checkered flag. Roberto Garcia, a 2-time victor here in Portimão. A flawless performance from your championship leader as we see Alberto Sura holds on for 2nd place ahead of Unai O'Radre. 4th place, Alberto Fernandez, his 2nd top 4 of the day after his podium in race number 1. And who takes 5th? Mattia Casadei picks up important points for 5th ahead of Kaito Toba, who takes his best result of the season in 6th.
Yeah, a super classy performance from Garcia. If race 1 was electric and exciting from lap 1, this was cool and composed from the 2-time Algarve race winner, 3rd of the season and thoroughly deserved. He extends his championship advantage, and just as we saw, Mattia Casadei has taken P5. It's turned into a decent Sunday salvage job for the Italian, who will hold on to 2nd place in the standings, but he does lose ground to the rider popping a wheelie across the Autódromo do Algarve here in the south of Portugal.
Yeah, big result there for Roberto Garcia as he slides downhill into the car version of turn number 5. Another wheelie for your race winner. So Unai Oradri waves to the crowd around the Autódromo Internacional do Algarve circuit here in Portimão. That's his second podium from 3 races. And Unai Oradri had a really difficult start to the season. He's once again found his form. And a big kiss to the camera. He's come down the hill towards Craig Jones' corner. And a very solid performance for Unai Oradri. And we saw him in the hotel over the weekend in the restaurant, and he looked really confident, as did his stablemate in the STV Leglise Racing Squad, Alvaro Carpe. We won't talk, if you're just joining us right now, we won't tell you the result of the JuniorGP results, but if you've just joined us, make sure you watch the stocks, which will be coming up next, and then go back and watch JuniorGP, and of course European Talent Cup, and of course race number 1 of Moto2, with Roberto Garcia putting in an incredible performance. What could have been without that mistake from Dani Munoz? He was slowly bridging the gap to Roberto Garcia, who once again pulls a perfect top rack Rasgatiello stoppie and a burnout to boot. For the fans around this circuit, a very warm day. I'm sure that tyre has been put through its paces and absolutely abused out there, and just whatever tyre life it had left, it probably doesn't have any longer, as the marshals get a selfie with your double race winner in Portimão. Came under a bit of pressure from Dani Munoz in the middle part of the race. Munoz lapping a couple of tenths of a second faster for the previous 3 laps before he eventually tucked the front and crashed out at turn number 5. He did remount, did Munoz, but eventually a couple of laps later did pull into the pits. It's a great shame because Munoz was sitting 17 points behind Garcia going into that race, and he'll now slip even further back in the chase for the championship. Celebrations for Oradri and the STV Leglise Racing Squad after he's been weighed in Parc Ferme. And a kiss of the front of the fairing to Roberto Garcia's bike from Garcia himself. 40 points on the board for Alberto Sur, 2 second places today, which has been a great result for the Italian rider. No podiums since Misano before this weekend. Came into this weekend needing a big result. It got 2 big point scoring hauls on the board, but unfortunately for him, nobody could stop Garcia from taking the double. 50 points from a possible 50 here this weekend, and of course pole position and fastest lap, just to add even more insult to injury for the rest of the field. This was the race-winning overtake on lap 1. Garcia into turn 5. Took it from Alberto Sura, who led the race so brilliantly in race 1. Couldn't retaliate. I mean, I saw this moment on the final lap from Garcia, who almost threw it all away as he threw the bike from right to left on the way from turn 3 up to turn number 4. But thankfully, it was the only mistake he made all day, to be fair. It was 99.9% perfection from Garcia, just missing another 0.1. So to make an absolute dream weekend as he's embraced by his very hard-working team, the Fantic Cardoso Racing Squad, led by Luis Cardoso on the left of screen there with the curly hair on his phone, taking a video for, I'm sure, the team's social media. And what an incredible team that he has put together, bringing up young talent through the classes as well. As we'll be hearing from Roberto Garcia in a few moments' time with Chris Jordan, who has found some shade down in Parc Ferme. Not getting that tan on just at the moment as Chris, but I'm sure he will be later on in the day. Roberto Sura looks absolutely spent from that race out there. It was a very hot day. Before the race even began, it was 32 degrees air temperature, 40 degrees track temperature, and they'll be needing lots of water in the system after that one. It's a stonkingly hot day here in the Algarve. Big wave to the camera, big celebrations. It will be long into the evening for Unai Oradri. Great day for that team, and multiple classes. As I said earlier on, if you've missed the day's racing action before now, make sure you go back and watch it once the Stock European Championship is done and dusted, which will be going out on track ready for a 4 o'clock local start, so just 25 minutes from now. So we see Roberto Garcia heading over to talk to our one and only Chris Jordan, who is down there with a Race 2 winner in Moto2.
Yeah, we're just getting some last-minute pictures in, but Roberto, it's been the perfect weekend in Portugal for you. Pole, win, championship leader. Talk to me about your day and what it means for you going forward.
Yeah, the weekend is perfect. It's incredible. Incredible day, incredible week, incredible motorbike, incredible team, nothing. I am very happy. Next to Aragon, go pushing in the summer. See you to Aragon. I am congratulations for my team, Cardoso Racing, for my family, and thank you. Don't speak because it's very excited. Yeah.
Vale, ahora en español, por favor.
Ha sido un fin de semana maravilloso, la verdad que sin palabras, porque hemos estado trabajando muchísimo. En Barcelona no estábamos muy competitivos, pero aquí hemos llegado con muchas ganas, afrontándolo muy positivamente y sin palabras. Y la verdad que ha sido un fin de semana maravilloso. Antes de irnos al verano, la verdad que muy contento y a trabajar en el verano y nos vemos en Aragón.
Felicidades. Thank you.
Roberto Garcia said it was a beautiful performance in race 1. Well, he made it double beautiful in race number 2 as he got the whole shot from lights out, but was challenged into turn at number 1 by Alberto Sura, who did take the advantage, but it wouldn't last very long as Roberto Garcia challenged once again into turn at number 5. The Spanish rider would take the whole shot and open up a gap over Sura, who came under better pressure a couple of laps later from the 17 of Dani Munoz. Spanish rider with a late move on the inside into turn 13. Went one way and then the other, sets up Sura, and then Sura never saw which way he went. As Garcia led, it would be Munoz who would take up the mantle of the closest challenger, and he would eventually start closing down the gap a couple of tenths each single lap. As Sura consolidated his third position for the time being at turn number 5, it claimed another victim. And this would be in the hands of Dani Munoz, who crashed out on lap number 6. That put Alberto Sura back into P2, with Unai Oradri taking third position, as he then started to close in on the Bosco Scuro for second and third. Further back, it was Ferrandez from Fernandez, and Fernandez made this move on Ferrandez at turn 3 after the 54 ran a little bit deep. However, it didn't last very long as the Finnetwork Racing Team rider powered past again. Bit of a moment there for Mattia Cassidy, almost tagging the back of Toba, but thankfully they were all okay. But on the final lap, Garcia had that moment and almost put him out of the race, but he gathered it all up to take victory for the second time in Portimão. An absolute masterclass in the Algarve sun for your new Moto2 championship leader. Celebrations and a burnout to boot as he came into Parc Fermé to celebrate what's been an absolute perfect weekend in Portimão.
We call already representing the winning team, Fantique Cardoso Racing, David Agea.
David Agea, another member of the Fantique Cardoso Racing squad. Second time today, they've had another team representative on the podium to pick up the trophy. Unai Oradri, second podium of the season. His second in the last 3 races. His form has really started to come good in this part of the season. A little bit of a limp there for Alberto Sura. But gingerly walking away, or walking up to the podium, is Alberto Sura. Thankfully, that didn't come into any problem for him as he picked up second. But your race winner in race number 2 in Moto2. Roberto Garcia, his third of the season. Jean-Marc Denot, Vice President of the FIM Europe, hands over the trophy to the team representative of Fantic Cardoso Racing. Another one to add to the trophy cabinet.
Handles the trophy for the third position.
Unai Oradri once again stands on third spot, but he'll be very happy with his performance at this weekend. A fifth place and a third in today's racing for the STV Leglise Racing team rider.
First Vice President FIM Europe.
Manuel Manjero, first Vice President of FIM Europe, hands over the trophy to Alberto Sura, who now moves up into second in the championship. 19 points off your double race winner from today. Roberto Garcia celebrates with victory once more under the Algarve sun. And once again, for the Fantic Cardoso Racing, we will hear the Spanish national anthem for Roberto Garcia.
And it's time for the celebration.
So we'll now have the celebrations ready for your top three. The Prosecco starts spraying. Unai Oradri, the first one there, soaking in the Algarve. It's a very warm day out there today. The top three not just give themselves a soaking, but also their teams as well, who've put in a very strong performance all weekend to get these three riders onto the podium.
The first three in the podium, please.
And the top three will be standing for another photo that will be getting hung up in the bases for each one of their team, especially for the Fantic Cardoso Racing, as Roberto Garcia has made it double delight here in Portimão. 19 points, the championship advantage for him now over the rider to your left of screen, Alberto Sura. A difficult day for Mattia Cassidy, his teammate, who came into this round as championship leader, but with a fifth and sixth place today, he has dropped behind Roberto Garcia and Alberto Sura in the championship standings. So, as proceedings come to an end for Moto2 in the Algarve, we'll be waiting 10 weeks before we see them in Jerez. But for now, it's Roberto Garcia that leads away into Jerez, ahead of Alberto Sura, Unai Oradri, Alberto Fernandez, who picked up a podium in race 1, Mattia Cassidy in 5th ahead of Kaito Toba, his best result in Moto2, really starting to come on song in the class now. And Jorge Navarro, Harrison Voigt, he picks up his best result for a while in 8th. Marco Tapia rounds at the top 10 ahead of Matteo Volpe. Those two had a DNF in race 1, managed to gather some points in this race. Eric Fernandez had a disaster in the closing couple of laps. He dropped from 6th all the way to 12th ahead of Lorenzo Furlon, Matteo Rato and Taiga Hara round out your top 15 points paying positions ahead of David Tori and 16th ahead of Charles Aubry. And your non-finishers, Brett Roberts, Danny Munoz, a big name there, and Francesco Mongiardo, who started in 4th, but a double DNF for the Italian rider. We hope to see that he is okay after his crash earlier on in the race. But this is what's done for the championship. Roberto Garcia leads away ahead of Mattia Cassidy, who does salvage second in the championship with that 5th place. 18 points behind Alberto Sura, with Jorge Navarro 37 points further back. Danny Munoz, after that crash, drops to 42 points back out of Alberto Fernandez, Unai Oradri, Taiga Hara and Eric Fernandez. Johan Gimbert runs at the top 10 on 41 points after Francesco Mongiardo. Matteo Rato, Harrison Voigt, he picks up some important points for his championship in 13th. Lorenzo Furlon and Kaito Toba has a great day. He's now moved up to 15th out of Marco Tapia and Matteo Volpe. In 18th spot, Brett Roberts on 12 points ahead of Ivo Lopez, the Portuguese rider who only competed in Estoril. Eduardo Montero in 20th ahead of Gianpaolo De Vittori, Maxwell Toth, Jacopo Hostwig, Charles Aubry and Shannon Inter round out your points paying positions in Moto2 European Championship in 2024. Well, Unai Oradri put in a perfect performance for 3rd spot, but it would have been Roberto Garcia on the number 31 that did take top honours ahead of Alberto Sura, who picked up a double second place in Portimão here today. But nobody could stop the 31 of Fantic Cardoso Racing's Roberto Garcia as he looks over his shoulder and wonders where everyone else was as he dominated proceedings here in Moto2. He now leads the championship going to Jerez in 10 weeks' time ahead of the Bosco Scuros of Mattia Cassidy and Alberto Sura. Can anyone stop Roberto Garcia, who's now come into a rich vein of form? Moto2 will be back in action in Jerez, but don't go anywhere. We've still got one more race with the Stock European Championship on the way next.